Hello and welcome. Joining me on this edition is local author Patricia Bailey. Her compelling book, A Dream Premonition of a Life Less Ordinary, is the true story of a young girl who had a dream premonition concerning a tragic event which came true in rather bizarre circumstances. Patricia recounts her childhood and youth spent in Liverpool, which was at the time a city teeming with talent, and she gives a fascinating insight into life during the late 60s when the Beatles were at their peak. It's a sad, haunting and poignant book, and it tells us of the brief but deeply connected relationship with Stuart Howitt, the true love of her life, who was snatched from her in a tragic accident which could have been avoided. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the background to the writing of the book before we go on and look at it a bit more closely?
Yes, I always wanted to write about Stu Howitt and the phenomenal life that he led in 26 very short years, and his huge success, as was his mother's success with Howitt Ross, import and export company on the Derby Road at the Pier Head, which employed over 100 good Liverpudlians at that time. They had, should I say to you, the je ne sais quoi. She had such style, individualism, but above all, what her son had totally inherited from her was this energy of total serenity. Me being a very sort of, how can I say, passionate. I was a very reserved little girl, but I had quite a temper, a lot of energy. He had this amazing effect on me. When he'd come and collect me when we were going out, usually in his father's Jag Mark 10, he had a Mustang and he had every car, but it didn't faze him. He was an excellent driver. He didn't drive mad. He was very careful. It was like floating around Liverpool. It was seventh heaven to me.
He sounds very charismatic.
Oh, he was.
Well. Yeah, and very typically 1960s in some ways, with the car and the looks and the...
Well, he was, he had a boat. It was his dad's boat, actually. And he used to sail to Saint-Tropez. It was the first person that I ever saw in Liverpool with Gucci loafers. It says it all about him. He was 6'1", blue-black hair. I've never seen anybody with blue-black hair. And the softest, gentlest voice. He was an athlete. He didn't go to the gym. He had the six-pack then, you know, and he was a champion water skier as well. He was really going for world fame. There's no question of that.
So you had a dream, Patricia, when you were a very young child.
I did, yes.
Tell us about that.
At around 4 years of age, when I was living with my ultra-philanthropic, magnanimous grandmother, Sarah Middleton Joyce, I had this dream. It was the summertime, and I'd be playing with my friends Jimmy and David Jones in Levan Street, West Derby Road, Liverpool 6, and the dream would return during the daytime. This great sense of fear and terror whenever this reminiscent of the dream reoccurred in my mind's eye. I was very frightened with the dream returning and the feeling, more to the point. And that occurred, I would say, for 3-4 weeks, regularly. I realize now it was meant for me to remember every detail of this house and the feeling of great sadness and fear and just unhappiness as a tiny little girl. And then it actually happened 13 years later when I was 18 and a half, and I'd known Stu about 7-8 months up to that point in time. But the unusual thing is that there were 2 previous occasions before I actually got to speak to him. I actually saw him the day he was buying this cabin cruiser boat where I lived with my grandmother, and I was busy cycling down Bowler Street on my bike and cycled onto the pavement, and it's the former Cosy Cinema in Bowler Street, and it was then they'd sell boats and what have you, and I saw this young guy standing there looking at me as I cycled by, and he was transfixed looking at me, and I'm thinking, the hell is he looking at? But it impacted me, and I retained it. And then we go on. I was about 13 on that occasion. And then I actually was working in the Corn Exchange building in an office by Frank Strick's Import and Export. And Stu actually came in for what they call the bills of lading, because they had this import-export business at Derby Road. And again, he's there and he's looking at me, and I'm sort of very perturbed that he's intensely looking at me because I was rather shy. And then a couple of weeks later, I became the cook from the cabin, which is the top of Seal Street, and this had been his club.
There still?
It's still there, yes. There was a casino on the ground level, and you would go downstairs. Pete Price started off there playing records, the DJ, and so I would cook the food and serve the food and take the orders and give the orders for the replenishing of the stock. And in he walks, and he was with 3 other people, a girlfriend and his manager, Wally Brown, and his girlfriend. And the minute I came out into the little bistro, he stopped dead and I stopped dead because I just sort of indirectly met him a couple of weeks before at Frank Strick's office. And then it transpired that the day he was buying the boat and I rode by, it all started to sort of unfold each and every time that I met him.
Have you ever thought about the kind of the background to this? I mean, there are kind of different theories and ideas, some scientific, some philosophic, some perhaps a little more off the wall, about how kind of time works in terms of forward motion and waves and kind of serendipity, coincidence.
No such thing as coincidence, I have to correct you there. I know. The situation is that I've discovered in the journey, this journey, because I'm an ancient spirit from Atlantis and God knows where else. But in this particular journey, they tell me that I've formerly been married to Stu Howard. But in this particular journey, I'm more than aware, when I have a dream of a place or a person, it happens in the future. It's a preparation. It's a dress rehearsal of something that's going to happen to me.
That's your
It's
conviction.
my knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
It's my experience. It's happened. This is one of the, if not the most prolific dream that I had. And then it actually happened. But it was the impact of the energy of Stu Howitt and his mother. They just moved to this house, and everything was going wrong. They moved from one end of the Queen's Drive to the other, and everything was going wrong. And they discovered that there were tombstones behind the marble fireplaces. Also, when Stu was killed, his youngest brother, Jonathan, who still lives in Liverpool, he was 9 at the time of Stu being killed, noticed that there was a presence on the landing, which is where I had the dream, on this huge landing upstairs in this double-fronted mansion. And a boomerang would be thrown. And Jonathan was seeing this, but his mother put it down to the fact that he'd lost his older brother and he was a little boy and he was having this sort of awareness as a sort of reaction to Stu being killed. But subsequently, and I didn't know that, he didn't tell me that till after I'd written the book, Jonathan Howard. However, a couple of years ago, I actually went back to the house, and the now owner, these are the only people that have lived in the house since Mrs. Howard and Stu and Joe Howard, Stu's father, and the 2 brothers, Andrew and Jonathan. And the girl that still lives there, Georgina, has made me very aware that when they went there, they bought the house off Mrs. Howard from 1984. And she was 8.5, 9 years of age, the same age as Jonathan Howard. She had these visitations of this man wearing some strange sort of headgear in the house, and that there had been other visits of spirits in that house.
I'm certainly interested in houses. They're very powerful spaces, aren't they? They kind of accrue resonances over years. So you wrote the book. Can you tell us something quickly about the process of writing and its availability?
Indeed, it's published with Author House, author singular, .com, and it's $5.99. It's also available on Amazon.com.
Okay, and it describes the
In
process.
great detail. It's so
Yeah.
visual. I've had 5-star reviews of a few people that have reviewed the book for me. Helen Adams of Horoscope magazine, for one, and a few other people. And everybody that reads it, they say it's a great page turner. It's all engaging and compelling.
And you've written other books as well, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes.
Yeah. Anything else on the horizon?
Yes, the 4th book, it's called Rejection.
Any clues as to?
Yes, I've had a lot of rejection in my life.
Oh yeah.
It's a good job I know how to fight.
Well, yes. Well, thanks very much for coming in and talking to us. I know you've had a really
Thank
interesting life. You've been living in London
Yes.
and Yorkshire, and you're back now in the city
Yes, I am indeed.
of your youth. I hope you're enjoying it, and I wish you every success with the book.
Thank you very much indeed.
So thanks for coming in and talking
Thank
to
you.
us. Stay with us for part 2, when we'll be meeting children's author Jude Lennon. Welcome back. Jude Lennon is a former teacher turned children's author. We caught up with her recently at the launch of her new book, The Dragon of Allerton Oak.
Hi, I'm Jude Lennon. This is my mascot, Rory, and I'm here to talk about my book, The Dragon of Allerton Oak. We're in this beautiful building, the Mansion House in Coldstones Park, to have the launch today. I suppose the inspiration for the story was the oak. I was walking through the park one day, and for those of you who don't know, it looks very mystical and magical and looks as if something has attacked it, and to me it was obvious it was a dragon. So I started the story as an oral story really. I used to tell it a lot. I'm a storyteller, and I told it a lot to groups of children, and they really seemed to respond to it, so I felt I should write it down and make it into a book. So that's what I did. So sat and wrote it, and that seemed to come quite quickly actually. It seemed to flow out of the pen quite easily, but the process of making a book is a lot more long-winded than that, because I can't draw. So obviously when you're talking about a dragon, you really need some fantastic illustrations, which I couldn't do. But luckily through the reader actually, I met Chris Roddenhurst, who's a local artist. He lives around the corner, and he did the fantastic illustrations in the book. He really brought the dragon to life and the tree to life and the story to life really for me, which was fantastic.
Long ago, there was a mighty oak tree. It stood for hundreds of years, was used as a meeting place by all of the animals. Here they would meet with the wisest creature who lived amongst them, Luna, the owl. Luna lived in a tree near the ancient stones. The stones had been there even longer than the oak. Every week she left her tree, circled 3 times around the stones, and then flew to the ancient oak to listen to the animals' questions and worries. One day, a terrifying roaring sound filled the sky. Looking up, rabbit, hedgehog and squirrel saw something that filled them with dread. Can you guess what it is?
A dragon.
A huge, red, fire-breathing dragon heading straight for their oak tree. And because I wanted it to be a community book, I suppose, I approached all the local primary schools to say that I needed someone to name my dragon. So I ran a competition, and the little girl who won the competition is coming tonight to launch, and she'll be given a presentation to say thanks for choosing the name Rory, which I'm sure you'll agree is a fabulous name for a dragon who breathes fire. So it's been a really great process really. I've really enjoyed it.
Squirrel looked at the scary dragon and gulped. Taking a deep breath, stepped forward, cleared his throat.
Excuse me, is
dragon. Welcome to our woods. Are you hoping to stay near here? We can show you some lovely places that would be perfect for your lair. I found the perfect place, said the dragon. I'm going to make my lair right here in this mighty oak tree. The thing is, said Hedgehog timidly, this tree is used by everyone, but I'm sure we can help you to find one that will be just as good. Do you think you could all say no in a really scary voice? No! Roared the dragon. My lair is going to be in this very tree. And with a gush of flames, the dragon flew up to the topmost branches and started to make a nest for himself. The animals scampered away as quickly as they could. They were very worried and decided the best thing they could do was to visit Luna to ask her advice. Making their way to the ancient stone, Squirrel ran up to Luna's door and knocked.
For those of you who don't know, the Allerton oak is a huge old oak tree that grows in Calderstones Park. It's rumoured to be over 1,000 years old, and it was central really because before the days when they had courthouses, it was used as a place. I suppose aldermen maybe led to the name Allerton. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to do some more research. But they used to hold sort of a mini court underneath the tree to resolve all the local people's issues. So it's a well-known landmark locally, and I think it's come quite close in Tree of the Year and national competitions as well around the country. And it's a really magnificent tree when you go and look at it, and it's beautiful to watch it over the different seasons and how different it looks. And there's always something new you spot whenever you go and look at it.
Please come quickly, he said. An enormous dragon is making his lair in the oak tree and he won't share it with anyone. We'll see about that. Fluffing her feathers, she swooped down the tree, glided around the stones 3 times, flew to the top of the oak to speak. You are very welcome to share our tree, but you will need to find somewhere else to make your lair. I've already said I'm making my lair here. This oak is no longer for everyone to share. It belongs to me, snarled the stubborn dragon, and smoke started to pour. Impossible, said Luna. If you say sorry to the animals and leave the oak, you'll be more than welcome to share the rest of the woods with us. Well, I won't be leaving. I like this tree and I'm staying. Take yourself off before I decide that roasted owl is on the menu for dinner.
And I need to thank so many people. Beatles, Liverpool and More, who are the publishers, they're also local. I like to feel it's a really local, homegrown book, which is really great and important, I think. There's a lot of creativity in Liverpool, so it's nice that we can all work together and pull together on a project. So they've helped me through the self-publishing process, which I knew nothing about as well. So I say the book sort of from start to finish, it's probably been about a year in the making really, so it's really exciting to think it's here now, the launch is here and it's out there and people have already bought it and have said some really lovely things about it, so I'm really excited for today and we'll see how many copies we get rid of.
I will give you until tomorrow to change your mind, said Luna, and with that she took to the air once more and flew back to the tree. The next day arrived and the animals gathered around the bottom of the oak tree as Luna flew in to speak to them. Have you changed your mind? She asked the dragon, flying to the uppermost branches. My mind is made up. I'm not going anywhere, roared the dragon. By now the smoke was pouring thick from his nostrils and the animals could feel the heat rising. You've left me no choice, said Luna, and spreading her wings she took to the skies with the tree. Shall we all fly?
I've had some feedback from some of the people who've already bought copies, which is really lovely. A little girl's going to write me a proper sort of write-up about her experience with the book, which will be really nice. I'm looking forward to reading that. It's being stocked locally in some local businesses, and I heard from one of those Stay Right Blend, an independent shop in Crosby, and they told me today they've already sold a copy today. It's been in the window there, so that's really exciting. And I've had really positive, responses from everybody really, so I'm really delighted.
As the dragon took a deep breath, ready to attack Luna, something very odd happened. Luna flew round and around the top of the tree, and as she did, a cloud full of many colours gathered. When the cloud covered the dragon and the top of the tree, Luna let out an almighty screech. Oh no! Almighty screech! Luna let out an almighty screech! With the screech came the loudest crash of thunder and the brightest flash of lightning the animals had ever seen. Terrible rattling stilled. Almost at once, thunder and lightning stopped. It's quite safe now, Luna assured the animals. When the animals stepped forward, they saw that the dragon was gone. And you know, ever since that day, dragons never returned to the house. But if you go to look at the Owl's nose at Old Stone Park, you can see the damage the dragon caused before he was banished by Luna the owl.
Is that the dragon that looked?
To get the book, you can either email me directly, littlelandphonics@outlook.com, or it's available locally, so it's going to be in the Bridge Chapel in Garston, the Pet Shop on Allerton Road, Lifestyle Collective on Allerton Road, Right Blend Coffee and Independent Bookshop in Waterloo, Hope Place in Prenton, Wirral, and The Crib in Southport.
If you have any comments or suggestions for the show, please do contact us at artsalivebooks@baytvliverpool.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. See you on the next edition of Arts Alive Books. Goodbye.